Вчора зранку ми всі прокинулися в новинах, і ці новини були навіть не про Україну, ці новини були про острів Brexit. Яким чином, з вашої точки зору, і з історичної перспективи, і з сьогодення, ця подія вплине на Україну? Чи є якісь хороші речі в цьому, з яких Україна може скористатися, і які проблеми можуть очікувати Україну? Ви говорили тільки що Україна має сама вирішити свої проблеми, але тим не менше є зовнішні питання. Чи вплине це зовнішнє питання на Україну? Яким чином?
So when you ask a historian a question, there's some risk that the historian will respond by talking about the past. Okay, so I'm going to make one big claim about the past, and that is this: in the history of Europe, whether it's England, whether it's Germany, whether it's Poland, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Russia, there really is no history of successful nation states. None of you is big enough to make the nation state work by itself. There are two big periods in European history. The first is empire, and the second is integration. There isn't really a space between empire and integration. This is what the British are about to find out. This is what they're about to learn. Because the whole idea of Brexit, or any idea of leaving the European Union, involves a myth, a false myth, that there's something to go back to, that there is an English nation state to go back to, or a French nation state to go back to. There is no national history to go back to. No one has ever made the nation state work. The question in European history is, what bigger entity do you belong to, and do you want to belong to? So I think what Brexit is going to teach the British is what many Ukrainians understand already. It's very important to have your own state. It's very important to make that state function. And then it's very important to have that state belong to something which is much larger than itself. In your case, the European Union, or some version of the European Union. As far as contemporary concerns, the first thing, as you all know, is that this is a major triumph for Russian foreign policy, right? Russian foreign policy aims at separatism of all kinds because the Russians understand what I have just told you. They understand that Europe cannot make it as separate nation states, that Europe is only strong together. So Russian foreign policy says, we, Russia, cannot get much stronger, but what we can do is we can make Europe weaker by helping Europe to fall apart. This is something that I think many Ukrainians understand. Other Europeans are still slowly understanding it. This is a place you can help. My third and final point is, we do not know where Brexit is going to lead. What we do know is that this is a moment of great fluidity, right? This is a moment of great unpredictability. I would compare it to the end of 1991 and the end of the Soviet Union. We simply do not know what's going to come next, and much depends upon choices that we make now. So if I were a Ukrainian, or if I had responsibility in Ukraine, I would say it's very important for Ukrainians to say, now, we are on the side of Europe. We are going to try to help Europe. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we very much want the European project to succeed. I think in some sense Brexit is a chance, and in some sense even Russian foreign policy is a chance for leaders in Kiev to say, we still believe in this enterprise. We believe it can be remade, and we hope that it will be remade at some point with our help. I think that attitude now is very important, and maybe more important now than you realize, because this is a moment of shakiness and a moment of loss of confidence. Okay.
Світлана.
Доброго дня. Good afternoon. My name is Світлана Заліщук, Member of Parliament. I've got a question. While choosing European integration, finally, Ukraine was supposed to come to the wedding party, and we all dressed fine with the best flowers picked. We were joking today in the morning with a colleague. And instead, we bumped into a divorcing process. I'm talking about the Brexit. And it's obvious that it will impact the integration processes on the whole of the continent. However, we also know that it is EU accession and also NATO accession that managed to transform those transition countries like Slovakia and Czech Republic and Poland and Baltic countries. So my question is, do we have to have plan B for Ukraine in this case?
Though I can't resist your comparison. When Poland and the Czech Republic and Slovakia wanted to join the European Union, when they wanted to have this marriage, what they found was that marriage wasn't possible because there was already an orgy going on. And the orgy was the creation of the common currency. Everyone was interested in creating the common currency. And so all the Europeans were together giving themselves a big naked hug about the euro. And that was the early 1990s. If we remember this historically, the European Union had no interest in admitting Slovakia or the Czech Republic or Poland. That's not how it happened. There was never a groom. There's never a groom waiting for you at the altar. That never happens. It's always the wrong moment for marriage, right? But we do it anyway. We do it anyway, okay? So it's a mistake to look at the European Union and say it has to be the right moment. It's never the right moment. 1989 was not the right moment either. No one in Brussels or Paris or Berlin, or Bonn, sorry, was excited about enlargement. But the Slovaks and the Czechs and the Poles and Lithuanians and so on made it happen even though it was the wrong moment. It took a long time. It took 15 years. But they made it happen even though it was the wrong moment. This is also the wrong moment, but nevertheless, Ukrainians have to do the right things at home so that 15 years from now, or whatever it might be, European enlargement is happening. If you wait for the right moment, then everything is impossible. So sure, it's a divorce party, whatever. Before it was an orgy to which you weren't invited, which is even worse. So whatever the moment is, you have to do the right thing at home and be patient.
For you, despite what happened, because we don't know what happened. Now we don't know what happened. We will see. Not only we know that UK is leaving EU, but we don't know how EU will look like after this. But the best strategy for Ukraine is to be prepared as soon as possible and as best as possible. And then, if it will be good for Ukraine, it will be chance to go. But if you will be not prepared, and it will be chance to be there, then you will be rejected, and they will say, we would like, but you are not prepared. Which means to be prepared is in your favor. Even if you will not accept it, you will work better, because it is about DCFTA, it is about leaving barriers, about improving business environment, everything this which is necessary for Ukraine. Which means no plan B, still plan A to do reforms.
So living in the UK and seeing this drama sort of unfold, and it's been a very depressing and humbling experience. So much energy has gone into something so unproductive. But what is, I was just desperately trying to find something positive to take out of this, sitting here in Lviv yesterday and watching this. And it's really the reaction of the young. So between 18 and 24, 75% voted to remain. I think this is the future. This is what we need to hold on to. And yes, what's happening right now will affect Ukraine and Ukraine's possibilities. But let's think of Ukraine as being a project in the same way as Eastern enlargement was before. That this was really, even though it was maybe not very popular, looking back at it, it was the most successful thing that the European Union ever did. And I think that's how we should think of this and Ukraine. Ukraine can be that tremendous success of Europe in the end.
This is the wrong time to go to a wedding party, and that Europe is going to be likely focusing on sorting its own internal mess in the coming 10 years. And but I'm purposefully saying 10 years for two reasons. This one, it takes time to change a country, and I'm impressed at the speed at which Ukraine has changed. Again, that doesn't mean I disagree with you that a lot needs to be done and so on, but if you look 10 years back, we were in 2006. So the discussion there was it's the end of history, EBRD should be disbanded, the job is done, transition is achieved in Eastern Europe. That's true, I mean, that's the discussions that were taking place in the boardrooms in London, right? When do we stop the EBRD? Right, well, thank God, common sense prevailed, and we're still here, and we're still here to help you guys. But when I look at the way we work with you, we are the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, but we don't stand for EU accession, and we certainly have nothing to say about NATO. What we stand for, however, is things that we should work together on in this country. Open markets, level playing field, proper competition in these markets, rule of law that works, business environment that works. And that, if we give each other 10 years to build, in 10 years' time, David Cameron will have joined the dust heap of history, so with so many other failed leaders, and nobody will talk about him anymore. But what we will talk about is Ukraine joining the EU. And never mind that in 2004 we made another historical mistake, on both sides actually, which is to not offer Ukraine membership perspectives at that time. Because at that time, nobody would have been able to oppose it the way they've been able to oppose it now. And we would be in a very different place. Never mind. We're looking at the future. And if we work together, let me tell you, I'm sure in 2026 we'll be talking about EU membership.
Знаєте, нам треба своє робити і не звертати увагу точніше звертати увагу, але не сильно звертати увагу навіть на вітер, грім і блискавки, а просто йти впевнено до своєї цілі. Я думаю, що рано чи пізно ми до неї прийдемо. План А і план Б – це бізнес-риторика. Коли ти будуєш державу, ти маєш мати тільки план А і свято вірити, що він в тебе є один і іншого в тебе нема. Коли ти свято в нього віриш, то він відбудеться.